But I'm a dying breed, you know? I mean, that's going back sometimes. We'll get to that in a second. Ohtani to the moon is where we start. An exclamation point and maybe a slump breaker? Dodgers already had the game on lockdown. The final 8, squadouche, putting the Mets in a tight spot tonight. Maybe some of you would call it musty. Jose Quintana, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. First pitch in 3 hours. Clinton Yates around the horn to you on Slump Bustin' and tonight.
Oh, we learned so much in this game, Tony. First of all, from the plate, the Dodgers' usual suspects all showed up. Shohei, who's been lights out with runners on base. Max Muncy, who's had a franchise record for homers, got out. As well as Kike Hernandez, who shows up every playoffs and acts like he does this all the time because he does. But also, the situation with Walker Buehler was incredible. He threw 90 pitches in 4 innings. And Will Smith, who for me was the most valuable player in a lot of different ways in this game for the Dodgers, managed that with no runs, something that has literally never happened in Major League playoff history before. And then they got 13 total Ks when he wasn't playing. This was a masterclass behind the dish from them. And the most important part about all of this, leading into tonight, is that it means that the bullpen game in Game 2 worked for Dave Roberts. He got exactly what he needed out of his starters, did not have to use a bunch of high-leverage guys in this particular game, and they can go into this game with Yamamoto ready to rock and their bullpen done. This was a worst-case scenario for the Mets, although I do think that you might not necessarily believe you're going to see that again. That's the problem with the Dodgers. When it's all working, they're almost
okay. But there was a headline in the back end of that. Worst case scenario for the Mets. Bill Barnwell, I turn to you. You see it that way?
It's really concerning. I don't know about worst case scenario because they didn't lose the bullpen game, but that's the only game they've won so far in this series. And Tony, the advantage for the Mets heading into this series was supposed to be the starting pitching, giving all the injuries and ineffectiveness the Dodgers had. And yet the Dodgers have allowed 0 earned runs from their starters in 11 innings. Mets starters, 6 earned runs in 11 innings. I know that Quintana didn't allow an earned run yesterday, but still a couple unearned runs for the Mets starters. That was the way they were going to win this series. If you don't win it that way, if you can't win a home game against the Dodgers, which the Mets have not done at any point this year, 0-4 at home against Los Angeles, what advantages do they really have?
I think you may have said Quintana instead of Severino earlier, but Quintana goes tonight. He's been a guy you really want out there if you're the Mets. Kevin Clark. Do you believe last night means tonight the must-win for the Mets?
Absolutely. Bill Barnwell, if what you weren't describing wasn't the worst-case scenario, I don't know what is, because the Dodgers right now are an absolute unit, and the Mets are not. The Dodgers are the first team in the history of baseball to have 3 8-run victories and shutouts in a single postseason.
Is that right?
They are, and this is a baseball term, beating the snot out of teams right now. They're an absolute buzzsaw. And if the Mets stars aren't going to start hitting, I just don't know where this series goes. Since they went down 0-2 to the Padres, they are on an unbelievable hot streak. 1.40 ERA, holding opposing batters to a 166 batting average. I just don't know how you beat this.
All right, Jay Adonde, we'll turn to you now here. Must win tonight for the Mets?
It is, but I don't think they need to feel concerned about what happened last night. If you follow this series, basically the teams have flip-flopped scoring between every game. So has Lindor. Ever since the first 2 games of the postseason when he didn't get hits, he's had a hit in every other game. They've won 4 out of the 5 games in which he has had a hit. Hitless last night, due in the next game. And I doubt he will strike out again with the bases loaded, which was the turning point in last night's game. So, yes, the benefit for the Dodgers is that they're rested. You wonder if they used up some extra allotment of runs, like they were good at 2-0 or even 4-0. You wonder if there was some wasted runs that they scored that they might want to put
part of those runs
for the next game
was Ohtani. Yo, Ohtani, to the moon. And none of you even mentioned his name, which I respect the restraint here in your answers. Clinton Yates, I'll give you the last word after the horn.
The issue, J.A., is that once you stop scoring against the Dodgers, you don't know when it's going to happen again. They literally tied the record for 33 straight scoreless innings earlier this playoffs. That's the concern if you're the Mets, is that once that bullpen gets moving, you might be cooked for the rest of the series. Just ask the Padres.
Kevin Clark, last word.
I mentioned yesterday Ohtani had a 842 batting average with runners in scoring positions. A day later, that's gone up. It's 850 now. How is that possible?
Your stats are outdated.
But you also argued that they should move him down in the order yesterday, Kevin Clark. Thank you for reminding us of that. I don't think that may have been slightly an overreaction. Who you got tonight, Clinton Yates?
think the Dodgers are going to do this. They're looking good, and once again, that bullpen is on fire.
Jay Adande.
I'll go Dodgers.
Kevin Clark.
Dodgers.
Bill Barnwell.
I have to go with the Mets if everybody picked the Dodgers. Come on, it's a home game.
We've been Horn. We'll move on. Now the story of the night and maybe more. Ionescu. The shot from 28 feet. The play, if you even call it a play, it's shockingly simple. Because if you have somebody who can connect from 28 feet, and Ionescu definitely does, then you go with it. Consider how the Liberty lost game one. Stewart got to an easier shot. A bunny, but had to work through so many bodies to get there. She missed. Ionescu here, dribble, and pull. The fourth game-winning three in finals history. Is it the best? Is it a series changer? Should Minnesota regret how they played the back end of this game? Talk to me about the enormousness here, Jay Adande. Around the horn to you.
Certainly it's on the short list of go-ahead threes. I think it's the fourth in league history in the NBA Finals in the final seconds to win a game. But the bad omen for the Liberty, the first and maybe most memorable, was Teresa Witherspoon's in 1999, and they lost that series to the Houston Comets. So this does not mean that the series is over. Just like the great start the Liberty got off to in game one didn't end the series early. If I'm the Minnesota Lynx, I'm encouraged by the fact that we played great defense, that we got great looks. They just didn't convert. They shot 39% to New York's 45%, and I think that was the key difference in the game, the telltale statistic. But they got great looks. They just need to convert them. They'll be okay. Sabrina Ionescu was a plus-minus for the game until that last shot. The Liberty only led for less than 2.5 minutes in that game. Minnesota did a lot of things right that I think are repeatable.
Kevin Clark.
Yeah, the great Bill Walsh said there's no such thing as clutch. There's only just executing normally when everybody else starts to lose their head. And Sabrina said she's made that shot thousands of times. This is what she practices for. And superstars, Jay mentioned it, solve their own problems. She had negative point differential on the evening. She went cold for large periods of the night, and it did not matter. We talk about all-timiness, history, all that stuff. What's cooler than calling game? What's the thing you do in your driveway and you say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to step back. I'm going to just be defense-proof because I'm so far back, 28-footer, and nail this. This was history. This was a superstar. I love this.
Bill Barnwell.
This has been the postseason of Sabrina Ionescu. No surprise, she comes up with the big shot when it absolutely is needed. The Liberty so far this postseason, the two games they've lost have been the games where she struggled, shot 30% or below. She shot 40% or better in each of their victories. This was not her best performance, to J.A.'s point, but this is not a regular shot. This is not something that is, you practice for. Even if you practice it 1,000 times, you can't be in that moment until you're actually in that moment. Hitting that shot, having the faith to even take that shot is a special play.
Clinton Yates.
Yeah, but, I mean, listen, Ionescu came up with the big shot at the end twice, but the totality of this game was remarkable overall from the Liberty. Stewie was out there screaming and yelling at her own teammates, at her opponents, never mind the run that they made in the second half. Once Alana Smith went out and you thought, oh, there's blood in the water for the Liberty, they know they can do this. This was a fantastic game, period, with an even better coda from Sabrina. I was thoroughly impressed by how they held it together.
Right, it's now a series where two games had enormous swing. Actually, all three, but this is the first time in finals history 15-point comebacks have happened now in two games. Adande, last word after the horn.
Breanna Stewart singularly responsible for that comeback and trying to make sure we completely erase the missed free throw and layup at the end of game one. And I don't think we'll be talking about that years from now when we look back.
You don't think this one shot has carryover? I know. You don't think it has carryover? Kevin Clark, you think this type of shot can have carryover to the next game?
Yes, and I think there's a case to be made. This is the biggest shot in league history when you consider all the eyeballs on this season.
Well, there we go.
What this season has meant to the sport. Let's play this.
You love everything
history,
about
guys.
this. I hear you.
I love everything about this shot.
Teresa Witherspoon, Liberty did lose that series after the shot. Nikki Teasley had a shot, huge shot. Sparks won the championship in the next game. Maya Moore, the other big shot, was a win for the Lynx further into that series. All right. Adande, how'd you get all these points? Here's how he got these points. He made the Basketball Hall of Fame. Jay, you already know this, but let me cook for a second. Kurt Gowdy, print media recipient. Huzzah! The ring is a grand Teton on your finger, and that suit is cold. These photos, so clean, by the way. You made everybody laugh. everybody but Larry Bird during your speech. I want to ask you what that was about. And as far as how you got to 32 points, 32 years in the business, but also number 32 welcomed you to the club. And how did you keep this photo away from us? How, all these years, did that young man ever dream this could be, Jay?
I never would have imagined it. Thanks to everyone at the Hall of Fame, especially Jim McManus behind the scenes, makes everything happen. Sorry, all that Laker talk. That's probably why Larry Bird had a bad taste in his mouth. But congrats to all the other award winners. Congrats to the entire class. So honored to go win with you. How about Simone Augustus turning it into a poetry slam? That was
great.
Beautiful. An incredible, unforgettable weekend.
You wore the
for
Jordan
everyone involved,
3s.
including those who came out to support me. Jordan 3s
Mom.
from my mom,
For
who
your
bought me the original Jordan 3s for my high
She's
school
looking
prom.
down.
That was for
and
you,
just
Mom.
absolutely grinning from ear to ear, as we all are. We love you, Jay. I love everything about this. Buy or sell next. Broncos at Saints, Thursday Night Football. Both coming off losses. For New Orleans, 4 straight. Bo Nix versus Spencer Rattler. Sean Payton back in New Orleans. And Drew Brees goes into the Saints Hall of Fame tonight, too. Kevin Clark, the number one thing for you.
Spite. Whatever we're going to see tonight, Jeff Duncan, who covers the Saints, said there was a feeling inside the organization that some people didn't want Sean Payton to be on the other sideline when they honored Drew Brees, because there's still some lingering resentment over how Sean Payton left a couple of years ago, quit on the team. And so we're going to see maybe some boos. I don't know. We'll see what the reaction is from Saints fans, but I think there's going to be a little bit of hatred here. I think this could be the final nail in the coffin of Dennis Allen, who is allegedly a defensive coach, but on Sunday the Bucs scored on 10 of 14 possessions. This is a bad Saints team right now after a hot start, and Sean Payton, I think, is going to want to make a statement.
Spite is the number one thing to watch for. Bill Barnwell, how about you?
Spite's going to be up there. This is a revenge game for a Saints organization where there's still people who didn't love that Sean Payton kind of, maxed out the credit card bill. Drew Brees retires. Suddenly he decides he doesn't want to coach anymore. And then a year later he decides he does want to coach the Denver Broncos. Still some issues there. By the way, the Saints, have now lost 4 in a row. Only been 11 teams in the history of the National Football League who have lost 5 games in a row and still made it to the postseason. A Saints team that still is all in year after year because of the salary cap issues that popped up during the Sean Payton era. They don't want to have this rest of this year be a wasted season. They need to win this game.
Glenn Yates?
Number one thing for me, I was sold a bill of goods when Peyton came to Denver. Guys like Woody Page are telling me that Bo Nix is going to be a Rookie of the Year and he's an offensive genius. The kid hasn't thrown for 300 yards yet. And the Saints, by the way, have the 29th ranked pass defense. I need to see Bo Nix actually do some stuff this week. That's what I
Jay
need.
Adonde.
I'm kind of excited about the matchup between Nix and Rattler. This is the first time we're going to see 2 rookies go against each other, 2 rookie quarterbacks this year. It's a nice little, I wouldn't call it the appetizer. Maybe it's like the basket of bread or the edamame before we see Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels next weekend. So just a little teaser to get us ready.
The basket of bread. Bill Barnwell, you called it a must-win for New Orleans. Who you got?
I'm going to take the Saints.
KC?
Broncos.
JA?
Saints.
CY?
Bronx.
Buy or sell 2, Sunday, a rematch of the Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan, quote, everyone understands that we've lost 2 Super Bowls to them. So I mean that can give you a little post-traumatic stress when you turn on the tape. But I think that's human nature. You got to make sure you don't get caught up in that. This game has nothing to do with past games. Bill Barnwell, buy or sell that, and whether San Fran needs to prove they can beat Kansas City this week.
Selling that they need to prove anything. It's not going to matter unless it happens in the postseason. And the Niners have a built-in excuse if they don't win this game. Christian McCaffrey is not playing. Dre Greenlaw, the star linebacker whose injury in the Super Bowl opened up stuff for the Chiefs, is not playing. Talanoa Hufanga, who did not play in the Super Bowl and opened up stuff for the Chiefs because the Niners were bad in the secondary, is not playing in this game. He's on injured reserve. You have key players missing for San Francisco, guys who they're going to have in February if they play the Chiefs again. That's a built-in.
Glenn Yates.
I don't love the idea of built-in excuses when it comes to football teams. Yeah, they've got to win this game. They've got to prove to themselves that they can beat anybody. Never mind the Chiefs. This is not a very good football team right now. Yeah, it's going to be a difficult task, but overall, the Niners have identity issues, injuries aside. It's not like they won a Super Bowl when those guys were playing anyway. Come on.
Jay Adonde.
They can't avenge the 2 Super Bowl losses, but you can't keep losing. You can't go 0-for against the Chiefs in this era if you have aspirations of winning the Super Bowl. Yes, we know they're banged up. Somehow they're favored in this game. Shanahan's going to have to scheme some things up if they're going to win.
Kevin Clark.
Bill Barnwell, the built-in excuses have been submitted to the committee, and that claim has been rejected. There are no excuses going into this game. The San Francisco 49ers don't need to prove to anybody except themselves that they can play. I mean, that's the important thing. This is not Super Bowl revenge. Trent Williams said that ship has sailed, but they're a sloppy team who've had real trouble putting teams away. That's what I'm watching here. The problem now is they're playing a Chiefs team that knows how to win. Their speed just fast enough to beat you all the time. 5-0, lowest point differential for 5-0 team since the 04 Jets. They win this one.
Bill, I'll let you get back in there on Clark.
The same committee apparently also gives the Chiefs a mysterious call that bails them out at the end of these victories they keep having early this year. This is not a Chiefs team that's even as good as the Chiefs team we saw in the postseason last year. Come on.
Buy or sell 3, Travis Hunter on Out of Pocket with RG3.
I mean, y'all see Ashton Genty, but it's not like we haven't seen a running back that's good. We haven't seen a player that plays both ways, and I'm going to keep saying that. It's like he have 95 carries?
Yeah.
For 1,000
yards, yeah.
If I had 95 catches, how much yards you think I have? Okay. So I'm trying to tell him, like, if I had 95 targets on defense, what do you think I'll have? He got double the touches I got on the offensive side of the ball, and I still have defensive stats.
Clinton, buy or sell?
I'm buying every single part of this. To quote a rapper who showed up on that campus and rapped, it ain't tricking if you got it. He's right. The math that he uses to add up to make his case actually makes sense, and he said it very well. Good job, young man. You probably deserve that award, for sure.
Donde.
I'll buy it. It used to be that if you got 2,000 rushing yards, like Genty is well on his way to doing, you'd win the Heisman. Mike Rozier, Marcus Allen, Barry Sanders. But since then, there's been a slew of 2,000-yard rushers with no trophies to show for it. Meanwhile, when a defensive player also had 3 touchdowns, like Charles Woodson did, he got the Heisman. And guess what? Hunter already has twice as many touchdowns from
Kevin Clark.
Less touches, that sounds like a pretty good built-in excuse, Bill Barnwell. But here's what I'm looking at. First of all, Cam Ward should be in this discussion more. But second of all, Travis Hunter is right. Over 300 snaps on offense and on defense. He's one of the best receivers in the Big 12 and one of the best cornerbacks in college football. He can play any position he wants in the NFL. This is a guy who's doing something special. I lean him with Heisman.
Bill Barnwell.
Here's a built-in excuse. Genty's been so good in the first 3 quarters of games that he's been able to sit out the fourth quarter of 3.5 games so far this year. And by the way, guess who leads the entire country in rushing yards in the fourth quarter of games he's been sitting out? Ashton Genty. 311 more rushing yards than anybody else in football so far this year.
I know. I respect also Travis Hunter saying this. I'm unique, you know? But there's also value in not being unique, but doing it better than anyone who's ever done it before, right? It's Ashton Genty, and we're not talking about 2,000 yards, Jay, just 2,000 yards. We're talking about Barry Sanders' record is in play here. Bill, good rally there at the end. Not enough. Clinton, thank you. Adonde Clark, that's our showdown next. Adonde, Kevin Clark, good-looking showdown. Boston's new NWSL team, Boss Nation FC. The rollout this week did not go well. They've apologized and scrubbed their hype intro video, this video you're seeing right here. It was a too many balls campaign, went over terribly and worse, demeaningly, and fans still seem to ask, can you also change the team name? Not fans of the nation. J.A., if your fan base is saying take a do-over, should you take a do-over?
Take a do-over. The good news is you haven't built up a lot of stuff. There's not signs all over the place, right? We're in the internet era. Just Control, Alt, Delete, restart this. I hate that nation thing anyways when fans call themselves nation. It's even worse to have a team call themselves nation. Do-over.
Kevin Clark?
Yeah, listen, that commercial was very stupid. It was a little classless, and I think that them hitting the reset button is a really smart idea. I don't know if they should change the name. I understand Nation has some connotations, you know, with the fan bases there in Boston. That part's fine. But just resetting, saying, hey, we screwed up. Let's build some goodwill. I think that's okay. I think they're doing the right thing now.
I heard it was also an anagram for Bostonian. You mean anagram? Yeah. Nana Oboist is an anagram for Bostonian. I don't know if we need that either. J.A. Dunn, you had it the whole way. I'm sorry. I'm a sucker. Here you go, Hall of Famer. Let me hear it.
Welcome to the J.A. Adande Lounge, located now and forevermore in Springfield, Massachusetts. And you know, everyone that I could have drawn up on my wish list to be in that room pretty much was in there. That was so incredible. But I want to take some time for the people that couldn't join us this weekend. You had Jack Nicholson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jim Calhoun, and the people who are no longer with us. John Thompson, Dikembe, Bill Walton, Jerry West, and Kobe. We celebrate them now and forever.